Dog behaves strange. When owner discovers why, he calls the police. Peter had always been proud of his dog, Max. He was a loyal and obedient companion, always by Peter's side. But for the past few weeks, Max had been acting strange. Peter couldn't quite put his finger on what was wrong, but he knew something was off. Hey there, ViralVids here. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell. We post the most beautiful, amazing, and scary videos every single day. Let's proceed with the video. Max would growl at nothing in particular. His ears perked up and tail stiff. He would often stare at the walls or corners of the room as if he was seeing something that Peter couldn't. At first, Peter dismissed it as just a phase, thinking that Max was just feeling restless or bored. But the behavior persisted, and Peter grew increasingly worried. He took Max to the vet, hoping to find some answers. The doctor ran a battery of tests, but found nothing out of the ordinary. Max seemed healthy and happy, and the vet couldn't find any physical cause for his strange behavior. Peter was at a loss. He didn't know what to do or where to turn. He had always trusted Max's instincts, but now he wasn't sure if he could trust them anymore. He started to feel paranoid, wondering if Max was sensing something that he wasn't. He started to look at every little thing in the house, wondering if something was off. Was there a break-in that he hadn't noticed? Was there something sinister lurking in the shadows? The more Peter thought about it, the more anxious he became. Max's strange behavior was starting to rub off on him, and he was having trouble sleeping at night. He would lie awake, listening to every creak and groan in the house, wondering if someone or something was trying to get in. One night, Peter came home from work later than usual. As he walked up to his front door, he noticed that something was off. The door was slightly ajar, and there were marks around the lock. His heart racing, he pushed open the door and stepped inside. Immediately, he knew that something was wrong. The air was thick with tension, and he could sense that something terrible had happened. He called out for Max, but there was no response. He searched every room, his heart pounding in his chest. It was only when he reached his bedroom that he saw the signs of the break-in. The room was in disarray, drawers pulled out and clothes strewn all over the floor. But the only thing missing was a valuable family heirloom that had been passed down for generations. Peter's heart sank at the thought of losing something so precious, and he couldn't help but feel violated. Peter had been jolted awake by a strange noise coming from the living room. He sat up in bed, heart racing, and listened carefully. It sounded like something was shuffling around on the carpet, like someone was rifling through his belongings. He reached over to his bedside table and grabbed his phone, ready to dial the police. But then he heard a sound that made him freeze in terror. It was a low growl, coming from somewhere in the house. At first, Peter thought it was Max, but the sound was different somehow. It was deeper, more menacing. Peter's mind raced as he tried to figure out what was happening. Had the burglars returned? Had they found Max and hurt him? Without thinking, Peter leapt out of bed and ran towards the living room. He could hear the growling getting louder and more ferocious. He rounded the corner, ready to confront whoever was there, when he saw the source of the noise. It was Max, but he was transformed. His fur was bristling, his teeth bared. He was standing in front of the door to the backyard, staring down an intruder. Peter could see the shadowy figure in the dim light of the living room, a dark figure wearing a mask and carrying a bag. Peter stood frozen in shock for a moment, watching the scene unfold in front of him. But then he remembered the phone in his hand and quickly dialed 911. The operator answered quickly, and Peter explained the situation in a panicked voice. The operator assured him that help was on the way, and Peter hung up the phone, his attention focused on Max. The intruder had backed away from Max, clearly intimidated by the dog's fierce demeanor. But then, without warning, the intruder lunged forward, aiming a blow at Max's head. Max dodged the attack, moving with lightning-fast reflexes. He lunged forward, biting the intruder's arm and holding on tightly. The intruder screamed in pain and struggled to get free, but Max held on with all his strength. Peter watched the scene unfold in disbelief. He had always known that Max was a good guard dog, but he had never seen him like this before. It was like Max was possessed, like he was a different animal entirely. But then the police arrived, their sirens wailing in the night. They burst through the door, guns drawn, and quickly subdued the intruder. They handcuffed him and led him out of the house, his face contorted in pain and anger. Peter rushed over to Max, who was panting heavily but seemed otherwise unharmed. He hugged the dog tightly, tears streaming down his face. He knew that Max had saved his life, and he was overwhelmed with gratitude. As Peter sat with Max in the living room, he couldn't help but feel a sense of relief. The intruder had been caught, and he was safe once again. But as he looked around the room, he realized that the damage had already been done. Drawers had been pulled out of dressers, cabinets had been opened and emptied, and his prized possessions lay scattered across the floor. Officers began to search the house, looking for any clues that might help them identify the intruder. They dusted for fingerprints, checked for footprints outside, and even looked through the garbage cans for any discarded evidence. Meanwhile, Max sat quietly by Peter's side, watching the officers with a keen interest. He seemed to sense the gravity of the situation, and his demeanor was a far cry from the playful and energetic dog that Peter knew and loved. After several hours, the officers finished their investigation and told Peter that they had gathered all the evidence they could find. They assured him that they would do everything in their power to catch the intruder and bring him to justice. Peter thanked the officers and watched as they left his home. As he closed the door behind them, he couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The break-in had shaken him to his core, and he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than he realized. But for now, he knew that he needed to focus on taking care of Max and securing his home. He made a mental note to install a better security system, one that would alert him and the police at the first sign of trouble. As he settled down for the night, with Max curled up at his feet, Peter couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude. He knew that he was lucky to have such a brave and loyal dog by his side, and he vowed to do everything in his power to keep him safe. After the break-in, Peter couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over him. He knew that the intruder was still out there somewhere, and that he needed to be caught before he could strike again. But as the days turned into weeks, Peter began to let his guard down. He got busy with work, spent time with friends, and even took Max on long walks through the park. He started to feel like everything was back to normal, like the break-in had been nothing more than a minor inconvenience. Then, one afternoon, Peter's phone rang. It was the police, and they had some news. "We've caught the intruders," the officer on the other end of the line said. "They've been linked to several other burglaries in the area, and we believe they've been working together as part of a larger criminal organization." Peter felt a wave of relief wash over him. Finally, he could rest easy, knowing that the people who had broken into his home had been brought to justice. But there was something else that was bothering him, something that had been nagging at him since the break-in. He had a feeling that there was more to the story than he realized, that there was some connection between the break-in and Max's strange behavior in the weeks leading up to it. He decided to pay a visit to the police station and see if he could get any more information about the case. When he arrived, he was greeted by the same officer who had called him earlier. "Is there something else you wanted to know, sir?" the officer asked. "Yes," Peter replied. "I just can't shake the feeling that there was more to this break-in than just a random burglary. My dog Max had been acting strange for weeks before it happened. I can't help but wonder if he somehow knew that something was going to happen." The officer looked at Peter skeptically. "Dogs are sensitive creatures, sir, but I'm not sure that they have a sixth sense when it comes to criminal activity." Peter nodded, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than anyone realized. As he left the police station, he decided to do some investigating of his own. He started to research the criminal organization that the intruders had been linked to, looking for any clues that might help him piece together what had happened. And then one day, he found it, a news article that detailed a string of robberies that had taken place across the city. The article mentioned that in each case, the robbers had used a dog whistle to distract the homeowners' pets while they carried out the burglary. Peter's heart sank as he realized what had happened. Max had been reacting to the dog whistle, which had been used by the intruders to distract him while they ransacked his home. He felt a sense of anger and betrayal, but he also felt a sense of gratitude. Without Max's strange behavior, he might not have realized what had happened until it was too late. He returned home, feeling a newfound sense of respect and appreciation for Max. He vowed to do everything in his power to protect him, to make sure that nothing like this ever happened again. As he settled down for the night, with Max curled up at his feet, Peter felt a sense of contentment. He knew that there would always be danger in the world, but he also knew that as long as he had Max by his side, he could face anything. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for watching. See you next time.